So earlier this year, Ubisoft has gone and done something very interesting that we're going to talk about today with Tencent. They have partnered up to create a new studio called Vantage Studios to do something that we've seen happen in the past, and it begs the question whether or not this is going to be a good decision or a bad decision. So before we get into that, be sure to like this video if you guys like it, and be sure to sub for more. We drop videos Monday through Friday at about 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we stream at 9 in the mornings on Saturdays. So Ubisoft and Tencent create Vantage Studios to develop its biggest franchises. Which franchises, you may ask? They are taking over the Rainbow Six series, the Assassin's Creed series, and the Far Cry series. Going to be very interesting how that's going to go down. Ubisoft and Tencent have unveiled a new subsidiary called Vantage Studios, led by Christophe Dernay. I apologize for the French pronunciation. And Charlie Guillemot, which is the brother to Yves, the CEO of Ubisoft. This billion-dollar project is named the next step in Ubisoft's ongoing transformation. Begs the question what that's going to be. And we'll focus on some of its biggest franchises. Biggest franchises, to say the very least. So, this relationship between Tencent and Ubisoft began a few years ago with the Chinese giant purchasing a almost 50% stake in the Guillemot Brothers Limited Group. The group controlled by the Guillemot family, the founders of Ubisoft. The acquisition cost about 300 million euro, which is equivalent to about $350 million, also giving Tencent a 5% stake in the company's voting rights. The $1 million deal made Tencent, which already has invested in other well-known game studios, Ubisoft's largest shareholder, with an overall stake that could be increased up to 17%. The association between Tencent and Ubisoft has become one of the Chinese giant's largest ventures in gaming, and this connection is growing even closer with the revelation of a new project. So crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy stuff. Tencent is making major moves investing into gaming because they already invested into Riot, and that happened quite a while ago. And yeah, I can't see them not doing this more and more often. So Ubisoft and Tencent has announced the opening of Vantage Studios, a new subsidiary that will work on the development of all three of these franchises. The post on Ubisoft's official website states that Vantage Studios will comprise the development teams of the three franchises based in the Ubisoft studios in Montreal, Quebec, Sherbrooke, Saguenay, I believe is how you pronounce it, Barcelona, and Sofia. Tencent has invested $1.25 billion into Venture Studios and will own about a quarter of the new business, with Ubisoft holding the rest. So, very interesting. Very interesting. So, they partner up. They're going to splinter off these three game franchises into a completely separate studio, which I'm assuming is going to be held by people that have worked on these three franchises already. They're just nonetheless splintering them off. Begs the question what Ubisoft Main is going to do, if they're going to depart from three of their biggest IPs, long-running series spanning multiple decades at this point, and relevant ones that are going on today. Far Cry had, Far Cry 5? I actually have not played the last two Far Cry games, Far Cry 6 rather. I've not played that one. 5 I did. 5 I did play. But, massive franchise. Assassin's Creed Shadows just came out, and Rainbow Six Siege is an ongoing esports PvP competitive shooter. Like, you know, these are three major franchises that Ubisoft is nonetheless being like, we're going to shift these over so that these companies, or these studios rather, take control of them and, you know, keep doing what they're doing. Meanwhile, Ubisoft is going to go over here and do something else. I have no idea. What that's supposed to mean. Just be a publisher instead of a studio, even though they have, like, you know, hundreds of studios just all over the planet, which I think is kind of wild. But nonetheless, this is an interesting move by Ubisoft to get this done. $1.25 billion invested into this studio, and for the most part, it looks like they're going to have full autonomy. We're going to take a look at some other examples as to this similar situation and whether or not we can guess if this is going to be a good thing or if this is going to end horribly. You guys may have a couple examples of studios doing this exact thing where they splinter off from the main studio to another studio and they take a major IP over there. Off the top of my dome, we're talking Bungie and 343 Studios with Halo. But we're going to take a look at some other examples at the later end of the video. But specifically, this studio has now started operations at the beginning of this month, October 1st, 2025. So it's already underway. They're already taking over and doing whatever, separate from Ubisoft and Vantage. But one slight little curveball that was announced today is that we got a second article from GameRant. We're opening up articles from GameRant today. The Assassin's Creed boss has left Ubisoft. So, Assassin's Creed franchise boss Mark Alexis Cote has recently left Ubisoft after working for the company for around 2 decades. The news comes on the heels of the control of the Assassin's Creed franchise being given to Vantage Studios, a new company formed by Ubisoft with a 25% stake from Tencent. Oh, hey, Pachi. What are you doing? I gave you dinner. Do you just not care about dinner? Do you want to talk? Are you going to play Assassin's Creed? What's going on? All right, I'm going to have to chuck you off. Anyway, Coates started working in Ubisoft in 2005 as a software engineer and joined the Assassin's Creed team for the first time as a lead level designer in Brotherhood. Sounds good. Brotherhood was peak, honestly. Coate became a game director of Assassin's Creed 3, reprising the same role as some of the best Assassin's Creed games such as Black Flag. In 2022, while working on Shadows, the executive took the reins of the entire franchise and was responsible for laying out the current plans of the series' future. His departure begs the question what's going to happen with the future plans that were established for the Assassin's Creed franchise. Are they going to stick to it, or are they going to toss them out and go a completely separate direction? Who's to say? I uploaded a video about a month ago talking about my overall opinion about the Assassin's Creed franchise, and to be completely honest, there was a great schism, I suppose, when Origins came out and they did a completely different take on the combat in the game as opposed to the previous titles. And around then was more or less my time of like being like, I'm not a huge fan of the series as much as I was in the past. So if those were his decisions more or less to take the game in a more action RPG sort of point of view for the game, for the franchise, then I'm curious who's going to take it over and where they're going to take it from there. So who knows? Very interesting nonetheless. This week, Coate has departed Ubisoft as employees were informed via an email. According to IGN, Coate was offered a role as part of Vantage Studios' leadership, but he refused it. Curious why. Which led Vantage Studios' co-CEO Christophe Derenay to say he was disappointed by the turn of events. I mean, it makes sense. Someone who's been around for 2 decades, up and leaving, especially at a point in their history, and a point of their company where they're making a new subsidiary, shifting 3 major franchises over to it, it's kind of sketch. I bet everyone's probably like, oh crap, what are we going to do now? So every indication is that Ubisoft wanted the executive to remain in some leadership capacity, but it seems that Coate had some other kind of disagreement regarding the creation of Vantage Studios and the future of Assassin's Creed. So there's probably some internals that we are not privy to, which makes total sense, that he just disagreed with, creative disagreements and stuff like that, or even just corporate disagreements at this point. And he was just like, nah, dude, I'm out. You guys have fun. So gonna be very interesting for the Assassin's Creed franchise. I'm curious what this means, especially in the on the internals. And if he was not super confident to stick around when they were doing this split off, it does give me a little bit of fear. It does throw some caution flags up a little bit, that for multiple reasons, it could be a very negative turn of events. So we're just going to have to wait and see how that turns out. But one thing I also wanted to look at was more, I guess, industry similar situations. Because again, we're talking a major studio like Ubisoft, who's been at it for decades, with 3 major franchises that they're making a subsidiary for to take control of production, all that stuff, with significant backing from another party, Tencent, to the tune of $1.25 billion. Is this going to be good? Are they going to be taken in a better direction that they were currently under? I'm not sure which studios were or weren't working on these games, because like we said before, there's like 7 or 8 studios that are now taking control over these 3 major franchises. Were they already like that? So is there nothing really changing other than direction, I guess, by corporate ownership, or are they going to be cutting other people out, inputting new ones, especially since this Assassin's Creed director, Mark Alexis Coates, since he's leaving, they're going to have to fill that role with someone else. Could be taken in a better direction, in a worse direction. We're going to have to wait and see. But I wanted to take a look at some other, I pulled up ChatGPT to take a look at some other similar industry issues that happened, some good, some bad, and what we may be looking forward to. So one, of course, like I kind of stated earlier in the video, when Riot Games and Tencent became a couple. Tencent bought a majority stake in Riot in 2011 and completed full ownership later. Riot retained its dev culture and focus on League of Legends, which grew into a huge long-running live service esports platform. This is a model where a strategic investor supplied scale and market access while letting the studio run the IP. So this could be an Tencent, Tencent here, Tencent there. They nonetheless bought full ownership, majority stake of Riot, but still let the devs control the game for the most part, I would assume, which kept the game on the straight and narrow of the original plans for the game. So that's good to know. It's good to know that Tencent is not an overbearing, guy just over everyone's shoulder, breathing down their necks, being like, are you doing what I told you to do? Are you think you're going to do that? No, they may very well just let them, and this goes with Ubisoft as well. They very well just let these, may just let these studios keep doing what they're doing, or maybe take it into a better direction. This could alleviate some stress, could put on some stress. We're going to have to wait and see. Some issues that arose for other studios, I believe, where is it? So THQ, who here remembers THQ? I remember THQ. They liquidated back in 2012, 2013, and the major issue that it liquidated was it was already under significant financial distress with no coherent management, as ChatGPT is telling me. So they just suffered because of bad decision making, more or less. I'm not sure about the real the exact causes over just the general stuff, but when I saw this, I was thinking about how well all three franchises are performing. As far as I know, Rainbow Six Siege is doing pretty well. Live service esports competitive shooter should be doing relatively well monetarily. Assassin's Creed Shadows needed to outperform its sales figures in order for them to more or less break even. That was the sentiment that we were receiving from Ubisoft when we were about a month out from the game being released. I don't know where the sales figures are. I haven't looked them up recently, and they still have the rest of the year up until the holiday season to kind of bring back a little bit more revenue for the game, to put it that way. But I don't know how well the game is done. So it could be a bad case of this franchise is now being pushed over into a subsidiary, and it's already in a, I don't want to say it's on debt or in a deficit, but the sentiment nonetheless looks like that for the franchise. So that's where people really need to pour in their creative ideas to kind of revamp the series. So we're gonna have to see on that. Far Cry, I feel like, is doing better than Assassin's Creed. You guys might have to let me know down in the comments which of the three should be doing financially well based on content and based on previous titles, I guess, aside from Rainbow Six, I guess, with characters and content and updates and DLC and stuff like that. Which of the three are doing well? Which of the three are doing poorly? Those three, nonetheless, have been pushed over to these studios to revamp if needed, but they take on their successes as well as their debts. So this could, if there is financial issues with those games, then that's a burden that they're going to have to figure out how to come out from under. So sketchy. I'm not saying there's going to be a bankruptcy issue, but nonetheless, it kind of feels like that almost in a way. Now, I wanted to look up what were some, patterns or predictable bits and pieces about these subsidiaries and these closures, these bankruptcies, and these good outcomes. What were the key factors that drove those things? And basically what I got was if that you have an investor coming in to drop mad money like $1.25 billion, how overbearing are they going to be? Realistically, they shouldn't. They shouldn't be that overbearing. They should be able to retain some creative control. This cat is just all over the place today. They should be able to hold some creative control over their games so as to not I guess, deviate from the original roadmap, deviate from the original idea of the game. Another one is, of course, the financials. If the financials are already bad, then coming out from underneath them is going to be a tough one to kind of deal with. But also the corporate structure, the corporate leadership, how well have they done? People leaving, like the Assassin's Creed boss leaving, that's going to open up the door to add some more people in that could be doing well. People who have been there since the very beginning of the game. Like, again, we're talking Bungie creating Halo. Halo 1, 2, 3, Reach, ODST, also throw it in there because that was also a really good game. Those were, for the most part, still run by the original developer creative team. But once 343 took over, issues arose. 4 and 5 were kind of meh. They had decent day one sales, but they just kind of fell off very soon after. Infinite, same sort of deal. Had great sales kind of in the beginning, but nothing else really kept people along for the ride. And then you got to look at, Bungie even splintering off Halo with 343 and them focusing on Destiny, and how that didn't go nearly as well planned as they originally thought. So there's a bunch of examples out there of this exact thing happening. Be sure to let me know down in the comments down below if you guys got one in particular that you know of that worked out relatively well or worked out absolutely poorly. The worst case scenario is Vantage becoming, I was going to say, what was the word that they use? A custodian studio, which is a very, I think it's a very apt way to call a studio like that. A custodian studio that took over IPs to do things with, to kind of still put out stuff that they've been putting out, but nothing really pushing the envelope, nothing bringing these back. And I don't know if there's an example of a subsidiary company other than Respawn Entertainment. That's probably the only outlier within the past 10 years or so. They've done exceedingly well with Apex and the Star Wars Jedi series games, and they maintain full autonomy. That has got to be the most important thing, is that if you got someone who's doing this sort of thing, let the creative directors keep doing what they're doing. Do not get in their way. So it's great to see. But that has been probably the best, if not one of the top 5 best outcomes, I guess, more or less. But it's, it's going to be up in the air in the future to see how this goes down. Again, kind of sketched out a little bit, especially with the Assassin's Creed boss leaving. And it all depends whether or not they could fill a role with someone who really cared about the franchise more than he did. So, I don't know, dudes. It's a sketchy time. It's a very sketchy time. This could spell another issue in the gaming market, especially in the AAA studios. That could be a bad decision overall, and could lead to more closures and could lead to more space AAA studios leave behind for the indie developer studios to take over. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But be sure to let me know in the comments down below if you guys think of any other similar situations, whether or not they panned out, or if you think this is not going to pan out. Maybe they axe one of the franchises, which would be devastating to everyone, and they just focus on 1 or 2 of them. But who's to say? Who's to say? So let me know your sentiment on this, because I'm kind of like, yikes. This doesn't spell studio closure, but it's not it doesn't spell good news for some reason. It's more sketch. So, I don't know. Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And, of course, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and be sure to sub for more. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. That's it for today. I will be back tomorrow for some more gaming news. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I will see you guys later.